I woke up with a plastic tube down my throat and the worst pain I'd ever felt ripping through my chest. Everything was white, lights, sheets, ceiling, and my ribs felt like someone had parked a damn truck on top of me. I tried to sit up. Bad idea. My vision went sideways, and the beeping from the machines spiked. Some nurse with tired eyes leaned over me and said, "You're lucky to be alive." Lucky, right. My name's Frank. I'm 57 years old, and I live in upstate New York. 3 months ago, I got T-boned by some teenager too busy texting to notice the red light. Kid flew through the intersection like he was bulletproof. I woke up in the ICU with 2 broken ribs, a shattered collarbone, a torn-up knee, and a head full of painkillers. Doctor told me I'd be stuck at home for at least 10 weeks. No stairs, no driving, no lifting. I'd need help bathing, dressing, cooking, the whole 9 yards. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I live alone. Built my place with my own 2 hands after 30 years in residential construction. Took my pension early, sold my carpentry business, and poured what was left into a solid little ranch on 5 acres outside Syracuse. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. Every nail, every beam. So when the nurse asked if I had someone to take care of me, I told her I'd hire help. I didn't want to bother anyone. Hell, I didn't think anyone would even offer. That's when Janet called, my wife's sister. We hadn't talked much since the funeral 5 years ago. She called out of nowhere, said she and her husband Russ could help out while I recovered. Just for a little while. Said they'd be happy to pitch in. I was out of it, doped up, in pain, and honestly, I didn't want to be alone. The silence in that house? It'd kill me faster than the busted ribs. So I said sure. They showed up the day after I got discharged. Smiles, bags, and casseroles in hand. At first, I was grateful. I really was. But something felt off. Russ had this smirk I didn't like. Janet looked around my house like she was already moving in. I chalked it up to pain meds. Figured I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew it. Letting them in? Biggest mistake I've made in years. The first couple days, it almost felt normal. Janet stayed busy in the kitchen, tuna casseroles, lasagna, baked ziti. Russ actually fixed the busted garage door I'd been ignoring for months. They brought my meds upstairs on time, didn't make a fuss. I thought maybe I'd been too quick to judge. But by the end of the week, the vibe had changed. They weren't just helping out anymore. They were settling in. I came downstairs on my crutches one morning and found my entire living room rearranged. Couch pushed back, recliner moved, TV angled toward the corner. My coffee table, the one I built myself out of reclaimed oak, covered in their crap. Mail, magazines, keys, Russ's half-empty Gatorade bottles. Then I saw my office door wide open. Russ had dragged in a twin mattress from the guest room and dumped a pile of clothes next to my file cabinet. My office was his bedroom now. Didn't even ask. I limped over and asked, "Why didn't you stay in the guest room?" He didn't even pause his game. "Janet's a light sleeper," he said, eyes locked on the screen. "We figured it was easier this way." They'd cleaned out the fridge too, rearranged everything like it was their damn house. Janet even labeled the shelves. I found her color-coded sticky notes on the freezer bags. One said, "No more ice cream, Frank." That pissed me off more than it should have. She caught me staring at it and laughed. Well, someone's got to get this place under control. You've let it go. That was her thing now. Organizing. Every cabinet, every drawer, even my damn workshop. I heard her out there clanking around one afternoon and almost fell trying to get to the door. When I finally made it, she held up my jigsaw like it was a dead rat. "You really should declutter." I stood there gripping the doorframe so hard my fingers went numb. Russ had fully given up pretending to be helpful. Sat in his boxers most days, belly out, watching baseball like it was his job. Beer cans stacked by the arm of the recliner. I asked him to use a coaster once. He smirked and said, "Relax, it's just a table." I started losing track of my meds. The painkillers were vanishing faster than I remember taking them. One morning I checked the bottle. I was missing at least 8 pills. When I asked Janet, she gave me this tilted head, fake concerned look. "Well, you're forgetful on those pills, Frank. Maybe you're just taking extra without realizing it." She said it slow, like I was some confused toddler, like she was doing me a favor even explaining it to me. I didn't argue, but I started counting the pills myself. They stopped asking before using my stuff. Janet started borrowing my car without a word. Russ used my electric razor and left it full of his stubble. One night I caught him pulling beers out of the small fridge in the garage, the one I kept stocked with the good stuff. "Oh, you didn't say these were off limits," he said. "We figured it was all community." Community. That word stuck with me. They weren't guests. They weren't helpers. They were squatters with casserole. I tried calling the nurse hotline to get someone in for the mornings, but Janet answered my phone and told them I was fine now, said she'd take care of it. She was smiling when she said it. I felt trapped in my own house, in my own damn bed, listening to strangers slam my kitchen cabinets like they owned the place. The next morning, I rolled myself to the kitchen, opened the drawer where I kept my backup key. Gone. I stared at the empty drawer like it owed me an explanation. Backup key was gone. I didn't even have the strength to argue about it, so I wheeled myself back into the living room, where Russ was laid out on the couch in a t-shirt and socks, holding the remote like it was glued to his hand. "You see my keys anywhere?" I asked. He barely turned his head. "Nah, maybe Janet moved them. She's been tidying everything." Right, tidying. By the second week, they weren't pretending anymore. This was their house now. I was just some wounded inconvenience occupying space between the couch and the fridge. That Thursday night, I heard a bunch of cars pull up around 7, then high heels on the front porch, loud voices, laughter. I made it halfway down the hall before I saw it. 6 women packed into my dining room, wine glasses in hand, cards flying, snacks scattered across the table I used to eat dinner at. Janet spotted me from the kitchen. "Frank, you should have said you were up. Want some brie?" They were drinking from my scotch glasses. Not wine glasses, scotch glasses. The ones I only used on holidays or when Rick came over. I watched one of the women, some redhead with giant earrings, pour the last of my Glenlivet like it was box wine. Janet waved a bottle of Pinot at me. "It's just my book club. We'll clean up." Nobody was reading a damn thing. I backed away, shut my door, and sat in silence while they cackled past midnight. Next morning, I caught Russ in my den, hunched over my file drawers like a raccoon. He jumped when he saw me. "Just looking for a screwdriver," he said too fast. "This cabinet's a mess." I didn't even answer, just watched him walk out like nothing happened. Later that afternoon, I found my old checkbook and one of my bank statements left, sitting on the coffee table, underneath a wrinkled TV guide. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. Then came the food. I'd prepped everything the week before, meals labeled and stacked in the freezer. Easy stuff. Chili, baked chicken, meatloaf. I checked one afternoon, and half of it was just gone. I asked Janet about it. She looked up from her crossword and said, "Oh, we didn't know that was just for you, Frank." She said it like I was the selfish one. I started writing my name on everything in the fridge. Didn't help. Next morning, my marked yogurt cups were missing, and the leftover pasta I'd saved was scraped clean. They blasted the AC like it was free. Left every damn light on. Took marathon-length showers. I swear Russ spent 45 minutes in there one morning. I could hear the water running while I laid in bed, sweating and pissed off. The bill came a few days later, triple my usual. I rolled into the living room, held the envelope out, and said, "You two mind telling me why the electric bill looks like I'm running a hotel?" Janet looked up from her phone, real calm. "We left our house to help you, Frank. We didn't have to come here. You're acting like we're freeloaders." She actually pouted, like I'd kicked her puppy. I wanted to yell, wanted to say everything boiling in my head, but my ribs still ached. My knee felt like it was full of broken glass, and I was too damn tired. I just wheeled away. Didn't say a word. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid there, lights off, just listening to the TV in the other room, the sound of cabinets opening, the distant hum of the washer running at 2 a.m., and something else, something quieter, the sound of my patience wearing out. Around 2:30 in the morning, my body finally gave up on trying to play tough. My leg was screaming, my shoulder felt like it was splitting in two, and my ribs were grinding every time I breathed. I called out, "Janet!" Nothing. "Russ?" Silence. I tried again, louder this time, still nothing. So I sat up, teeth clenched, and grabbed my crutches. Took me 5 minutes just to swing my legs off the bed. I stood, almost blacked out, then forced myself forward one shaky step at a time. It took me 20 minutes to make it downstairs. Every step was a war. I finally reached the bottom, sweating, shaking, every part of me on fire. And there they were, Janet and Russ, camped out on my couch like it was movie night. TV blaring some late-night comedy rerun, lights on, snacks on the coffee table, Russ scratching his belly under a throw blanket. They didn't even notice me at first. I leaned on the wall and said, "I need help. I need my pills." Janet looked up, totally unbothered. "Can it wait?" "We're about to go to bed." I blinked. For a second, I thought I misheard her. "No, it can't wait," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm in pain. I called you twice." She rolled her eyes like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "Frank, you're always in pain." It's 2 in the morning. That's when I snapped. I pointed straight at her and said, "You two are leeches. You're not helping. You're just sucking me dry." Russ sat up. "Whoa, man. Calm down." Janet stood, hands on her hips. "We're not your damn servants, Frank. You act like we owe you something. You don't owe me a damn thing," I fired back. "But you asked to come here. You said you were here to help. Instead, you're using my house, my food, my money." That's when I saw it. Right on the coffee table, half tucked under a magazine, was my credit card. The one I hadn't used since the accident. The one I kept hidden in my upstairs drawer. I didn't say another word, just stared at it. Janet followed my eyes, then rushed to grab the magazine and slide it over the card. But it was too late. I went back upstairs. No help, no pills, just adrenaline keeping me upright. Next morning, once I could move again, I pulled up my account on the old laptop I kept in the bedroom. $2,316, charged over the past 2 weeks, electronics, clothing, a couple online orders from stores I didn't even recognize. I printed the statements, sat with them on my lap for an hour, just staring. Then I called them into the kitchen. Janet came in first, still in pajamas, holding a mug that said, "World's Best Aunt." Russ followed, yawning, phone in hand. I didn't even bother with small talk. "You used my credit card." Janet didn't flinch. "We needed some things." I held up the printouts. "You bought a damn flat screen and a pair of designer boots." "We're family, Frank," she said, like that explained everything. "What's yours is ours." That line, that's what did it. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You've got 48 hours. Pack your crap and get out." Russ started to speak. I cut him off. "Don't even open your mouth. You think laying around in your underwear and draining my bank account makes you a guest? You're a squatter with a beer gut." Janet stepped closer. "You're really kicking us out after everything we did for you?" "You didn't do a damn thing for me," I said. "You did it to me." She opened her mouth again, but I was already turning away. Done talking. I headed back to the stairs, one crutch at a time, heart pounding with every step. By the time I got back upstairs, I was shaking. Not from pain, but pure rage. My hands were still trembling when I picked up the phone and dialed Neil. He answered on the second ring. "Frank?" "Yeah." "I need legal advice." Now I told him everything. The stolen card, the charges, the squatting, the pills, every damn detail. When I finished, he didn't even pause. "They're squatters with no legal leg to stand on. You didn't sign anything, and they're not on the deed. You're well within your rights to remove them. In fact, The longer you let this go, the harder it'll get. That was all I needed to hear. Hung up, opened my laptop, and typed up a notice. Bold font, plain language. Gave them 48 hours to vacate. Listed out the stolen credit card charges. Finished it with, locks will be changed, police will be called if you're still here. I printed 2 copies and walked them both down. They were in the kitchen, Russ at the table eating my leftover lasagna straight from the pan. Janet scrolling her phone like nothing was wrong. I dropped 1 copy in front of each of them. Janet scanned it and immediately looked up, furious. "You're serious? As a heart attack. You're kicking us out? You can't be serious, Frank. I already called a lawyer." She threw the paper onto the table. "So that's it? You're just abandoning the only family you have left?" I leaned on my crutch, jaw clenched. "You're not family, Janet. You're a parasite." Russ stood up, all puffed up like he thought he was still in high school. "Hey, you better watch your mouth." I didn't flinch. "Hey, sit your lazy ass down, Russ. You've done nothing but drink beer and stink up my couch." He sat, not a word. Janet looked stunned, like she couldn't believe the spell was broken. I turned and walked out of the room. That night, they slammed every door they touched, whispered just loud enough that I could hear them bad-mouthing me. I didn't care. I locked my bedroom door and slept with one eye open, hammer tucked under my pillow, just in case Russ got stupid. Next morning, I made one more call, this time to my insurance rep. Asked about in-home care. Turns out I qualified for a nurse through my post-accident rehab plan. They sent someone same day. Her name was Shelley, professional, sharp, knew what she was doing. When she walked in, Janet just stood there, arms crossed, eyes burning. "This your little replacement?" she snapped. "No," I said. "This is someone who actually knows how to take care of a person." Shelley raised an eyebrow. "Do we have a problem here?" Janet didn't answer. I handed Shelley a spare set of keys, ones I'd hidden in my toolbox. 10 minutes later, the locksmith showed up. Nice guy. Said he could rekey all the doors in under an hour. I went to the guest room to make sure they were packing. They were. Janet was shoving clothes into a trash bag. Russ was stuffing what looked like my wireless speakers into his duffel. I didn't say anything, just stood there. Janet glared at me. "You'll regret this." "No, I really won't." They were gone by noon. Took some stuff with them, a few gadgets, some food, maybe a couple tools from the garage. But I didn't even care. Let them take what they could carry. The locks clicked shut behind them, and for the first time in weeks, I sat in my chair, turned off the TV, and just listened. Nothing. No voices, no footsteps, no slamming doors, just peace. I got up, crutches under my arms, and did a slow sweep through the house. Took me maybe an hour. By the end of it, my hands were shaking again. But this time, not from pain, from rage. My dad's gold watch, gone. The one he gave me when I graduated high school, the only thing he didn't pawn off during his bad years. Couple pieces of old jewelry that had belonged to my wife, also missing. Nothing flashy, but sentimental. Her little sapphire earrings, a bracelet I gave her on our 10th anniversary. She wore it the day we buried her mom. They'd taken those too. I checked my safe in the closet. The combo hadn't been changed, but the envelope of emergency cash was light. I counted. $1,800. Gone. I slammed the door shut so hard it rattled. Went to the guest room next. Wasn't expecting much. They'd cleared out. But the closet door was cracked open, and something on the top shelf caught my eye. A cheap paper folder, beige, kind you'd pick up in a bundle from Office Depot. I pulled it down. Inside was a home equity loan application, mostly blank, except for one page. That one had my name on it, my address, my social security number, and a signature that looked close enough to mine that someone might buy it if they weren't looking too close. Only problem? I didn't sign a damn thing. They were planning to take a loan out on my house. While I was drugged up, half immobile, and trusting them not to screw me, I called Neil, told him what I found, read him every detail. He didn't hesitate. "You should press charges. Forgery. Fraud. That's felony level stuff. I sat there with the phone to my ear, staring at that fake signature. "I don't know," I said. "Let me think on it." I didn't press charges, but I called the bank listed on the form, told them what I found, gave them my ID, and made sure the application was shredded, filed a fraud report. Then I called every financial institution I had an account with and locked my credit down like Fort Knox. If they tried anything else, it wasn't going to work. Couple days later, I opened the drawer of the nightstand they had used and found something taped to the bottom. One of those cheap prepaid burner phones. Battery was still in it. I powered it on. There were texts, dozens of them. Most from a number saved as Agent Mike, FL. Some were short. Got the photos, nice pool, we'll need proof of income. But others made my stomach drop. Can we say the house is in my name? He's retired, no wife. Whole place is in his name. We'll be down there before Christmas if it all clears. I threw the burner phone against the wall. It cracked, battery flew out, and I didn't even care. I picked it up, stuck it in a Ziploc bag, and shoved it into the file cabinet next to the forged loan docs. Just in case, because now I knew. This wasn't desperation. It wasn't family struggling. It was a plan, a scam, and I'd almost let them pull it off. I sat at the kitchen table, that busted burner phone in a baggie next to the folder with the fake loan docs, and finally picked up the phone again, this time to call Rick. We hadn't talked much since the funeral, not because of a falling out or anything, just life, distance, time, grief does that. But now, I needed to hear a voice that wasn't lying to me. He picked up after 3 rings. "Frank?" "Yeah, it's me, pause." "Damn, it's good to hear your voice." "You okay?" I let out a breath. "No, not even close," I told him everything. From the accident to Janet's little takeover. The pills, the credit card, the stolen watch, the forged loan app. All of it. When I finished, he didn't ask questions. He just said, "Not surprised." That made me sit up straighter. "What do you mean, not surprised?" He sighed. "You ever hear what happened to Cousin Larry? The one down near Buffalo?" "Not really. Last I heard, he had a stroke a few years ago." "Yeah, and guess who moved in with him right after?" Janet, I froze. "You're kidding." "Nope. Said she was helping him out, just like she did with you. But guess what? Month later, she had power of attorney. Sold his truck behind his back, closed out one of his savings accounts. By the time his daughter got involved, half the money was already gone." I felt my stomach turn. "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" "Because you were grieving. Your wife had just passed." I didn't think Janet would pull something like that on you. I figured maybe she was trying to reconnect or... Hell, I don't know. I didn't think she'd go this far. "She did?" I said. "She almost took the damn house." Rick went quiet for a second, then said, "She's got a sweet tooth for other people's money. Always has. She's just good at wrapping it in a smile and calling it family." I stared out the window, watching the wind push leaves across the driveway. He kept talking. I always kept my distance from her. Never felt right, Russ either. Guy's got the spine of a wet sponge. I didn't say anything for a minute. Just sat there with the phone pressed against my cheek, listening to the fridge hum. That night, it all finally clicked. This wasn't just bad behavior. It wasn't poor manners or crossed boundaries. It was a scam. I wasn't a man recovering from a wreck with family helping out. I was a mark. And Janet and Russ, they'd played their part before. This time, they just picked the wrong guy to con. I didn't sleep the night before the meetup. The pain was mostly gone by then, physically anyway. I'd finished rehab, could walk again without the crutches, even drove myself out to therapy twice a week. But this, sitting face to face with Janet, that was a different kind of recovery. We met at a dingy little diner halfway between our towns. Place hadn't been remodeled since the 80s. Cracked vinyl booths, flickering light over the counter, waitress who looked like she'd seen every kind of regret walk through the door. Janet was already there when I walked in, sat by the window, nursing a coffee like she was waiting on a job interview. She looked up, tried to smile. I didn't. I slid into the booth and said, "Where's Russ?" "He's not coming," she said quickly. "Didn't think it would help." We sat in silence for a second. Then she jumped in. "I didn't mean for it to go like that," she said. "We were under pressure. Russ has got medical bills. You don't know what it's like to struggle." I scoffed before I even realized it. "You think I don't know struggle? I built my whole life from a sleeping bag in a busted-up van, framed houses all day, and ate canned beans at night. Nobody bailed me out, and I sure as hell didn't steal from people who trusted me." Her jaw tightened. She looked down at her hands like they were telling her what to say next. "We just wanted some security," she mumbled. "Something stable. Then get a job." She looked up, blinked like I'd slapped her. I leaned forward. "You could have asked for help, told the truth, but instead, you lied, stole, and tried to take something I built. You don't get to cry about consequences now." Her face went pale. She didn't argue, just looked small, like the game was finally over and she didn't know what to do with herself. I took a breath, pulled a folded piece of paper from my coat, and slid it across the table. She didn't touch it. "What's that?" "Info for a treatment center for gambling addiction." I called ahead. "They've got an intake spot open for Russ." She stared at it like it was written in another language. "Why would you help us?" she whispered. "Because I'm not you," I said. "And I don't want you pulling this crap on someone else down the road. Some old man with no kids, some widow who trusts too easy. This ends here." She didn't say thank you, didn't cry, just sat there with her hands folded tight and her shoulders pulled in like armor. I stood up. "Take the offer or leave it, but you don't ever call me again." Then I walked out. Didn't look back, didn't need to. By the time I pulled back into my driveway that afternoon, the cold air had moved in. Sky was gray, leaves were coming down hard, and the house looked still. But it was mine again. First thing I did was call the locksmith. Again. Had him recay everything, including the garage and the workshop. Then I opened my laptop and updated my will. Took out some names that didn't deserve to be there anymore. Tightened it up. It felt good, not emotional, just necessary. Next morning, I made another call. This one to a local therapist. Took the earliest appointment they had. I figured if I could rebuild a broken collarbone, I could rebuild some trust too, even if it took longer. The quiet in the house started to feel less like a threat and more like a choice. And I filled it. Picked up a border collie from a rescue up in Albany, named him Duke. He's high-strung, smart as hell, and absolutely hates squirrels. Keeps the yard clear, keeps me moving. That dog gave the place a heartbeat again. I also called Rick, told him about the diner, the conversation, all of it. He didn't say much at first, just kind of listened. Then he said, "You ever get tired of playing poker with yourself?" Next Friday, he showed up with 2 cigars and a 6-pack. We've been doing poker night every other week since. He cheats with his smirk. I call him on it every time. First time in years, we've felt like brothers again. I also hired a part-time assistant named Leah. Mid-30s, smart, no nonsense. She comes by 3 days a week to help with errands, bills, the stuff I used to do without thinking. She's sharp enough to keep me organized and blunt enough to call me out when I get stubborn. Shelley, the nurse from before, still checks in. Sometimes she drops off homemade soup or sits out back with Duke and throws a ball for him while we catch up. She doesn't hover, she's just around. It means more than I thought it would. I keep the folder, the one with the fake loan papers, in a locked drawer in my desk. Not out of fear, out of clarity. It's a reminder that people don't always show up with good intentions. That family isn't a free pass. That boundaries once broken need to be rebuilt in concrete, not forgiveness. But this house, this life, it's back under my name, my rules. And this time, no one's crossing that line again. I sat out on the back porch with Duke curled at my feet, warm coffee in my hand, and that cold fall wind cutting through the trees like it meant business. He chased a squirrel earlier and nearly took the bird bath out. Damn, dogs got more energy than most people I know. Sometimes people say family is everything. I used to believe that. Not anymore. Janet and Russ, they crossed the line, took my trust, my money, and damn near took my home. But I took it back, every inch of it. I could have pressed charges, still might if they pull another stunt. Got the paperwork, got the evidence, got the motive, wrapped up neat in a Ziploc bag and a manila folder in my drawer. But I didn't do it for revenge. I did it to show them I wasn't the fool they thought I was. I built this house myself. Every board, every nail, every brick. No bank loan, no handouts. I slept in a van for 3 winters to make this life happen. Nobody, not even so-called family, gets to walk in and steal that. I don't care who raised who. I don't care what the bloodline says. Respect goes both ways. If you're listening to this and you've got people like that in your life, leeches in disguise, draining you with guilt and manipulation, let me say this plain. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to draw that line, even if it shakes while you do it. And you're allowed to hold it, even if it costs you people with the same last name. Because sometimes losing family is the price you pay for keeping your self-respect. And let me tell you something. It's worth it.